Whose powers have eliminated some of the heavy favorites to get here. He takes on a winner of 9 World Series bracelets, poker's bad boy, Phil Hellmuth.
Phil, good luck, buddy.
Good luck, Anthony. Good luck.
Usually Phil makes sure he shakes hands after the match, after he wins. Now they're shaking hands before, starting out on a pleasant note.
Line started 8 and 1600. Esfandiari with Jack 3. And he raises to 4,200.
Continuing that aggressive style we've seen in his last match with Scott Fishman.
Hellmuth calls with 10-6 suited. Our first flop of the day. 9 deuce 8. A couple of diamonds for Hellmuth.
That's a straight flush draw.
They both checked, a turn, a jack of hearts.
Phil Hellmuth chose not to bet a straight flush draw, and he's let Antonio make a pair of jacks here.
Now Hellmuth bets 5,000.
Wrong time, bad timing. Phil Hellmuth continuing that conservative play we watched with Lyle Berman.
Esfandiari's happy to call. The river comes out, 9 of spades.
Phil has missed. The only way he can win is to try and buy the pot, put in a bet here.
That's what the percentages tell us, that Esfandiari will win the pot unless he folds. Hellmuth bets 7,000.
Easy call for Antonio.
Got a straight flush draw.
Phil says straight flush draw, which amounts to a 10 high. There's no more cards coming, Phil. You're not going to make a straight flush play, which is great if you make hands and you let your opponent bet for you, but that's not going to work with Antonio. He's going to have to play a little bit more aggressive.
And he calls on King Queen here.
Again, passively, could have raised.
8 tray for Esfandiari. And we know that Antonio's a rather unpredictable player, but what could he be thinking about here with 8 tray?
He's thinking about controlling the match. Like we've seen before with Antonio, it's not about the 8-3, it's about the control.
And that word you touched on, control, was an early theme in Antonio's quarterfinal victory over Scott Fishman.
Well, you had both players trying to establish control there. Here it's going to be a little different.
Well, you talk about aggressive. He raises to 8,200 on 8-3 offsuit.
This is what Phil Hellmuth wanted. Phil Hellmuth wanted Antonio to take the lead. Phil Hellmuth has got a king-queen.
Flop left to right is 9 jack ace.
Well, Antonio's flopped absolutely nothing. Phil Hellmuth has an inside straight draw. In order to win this pot, Antonio has to bet here. He took a chance. He raised it up with a nothing hand. That's a dangerous flop. He has no idea what kind of hand Phil Hellmuth has. But if he wants to win, he has to bet.
And Esfandiari leads out with 10,600.
Now, Phil's got the inside straight draw, but Antonio raised before the flop. Antonio could easily have an ace. If Phil Hellmuth throws this away, Antonio has established that control.
You're the first guy that ever tried to run over me every hand. Jack 3 worked.
And perhaps the magician has rattled Phil Hellmuth. Hellmuth folds.
First couple of rounds to Antonio, and Phil showed him the king-queen, and Antonio says, hey, I got you just where I want you.
You're the first guy to try to run over me every hand. If I keep missing straight flush draws and you keep winning with Jack 3 offsuit, you're going to do really well.
Imaginative table thus far. Phil Hellmuth with a queen 7 and a call, and via the Emberbach pocket can 8-5 for Antonio Esfandiari and a check. Flop comes 6-7-4, and Esfandiari flops a straight.
Not only does he flop a straight, but Phil Hellmuth has flopped top pair, and he's tired of getting pushed around. Going to be fireworks here.
But a great flop for Esfandiari, given the straight and given that Hellmuth hit a pair. Antonio bets 2,400 and Hellmuth calls. The turn card at 10 of hearts. Phil Hellmuth has no way of knowing this, but he's drawing dead.
Well, that 10 will stop him from losing a lot of money in this hand. That would make another straight with an 8-9. It's also an overcard to his 7.
How much?
Esfandiari leads out with 6,700, and Hellmuth calls him.
300.
It's hard not to call Antonio with a pair.
River card and 9 of hearts.
This card should save Phil from losing any more money. It'll be really hard to call now. Any 8 is a straight, and there's a heart flush out there. Phil was hoping for a queen or a 7. He didn't realize that'd be the worst thing that could happen.
Esfandiari bets 9,800.
Phil doesn't like getting pushed around, but I don't think there's any way he can call here.
And Hellmuth folds. Another win for Antonio. What gives him his edge?
Is not one of the nominees for this year's Mother Teresa Award.
I don't think anybody at this point is. These guys would run over relatives for a crack at the championship here. Hellmuth with suited jack deuce.
Let's have some fun.
He said, let's have some fun. I don't know how much fun he's going to have. Antonio's got a king, queen of hearts.
Hellmuth raised to 9,000. Esfandiari called.
Little reversal of roles here. The guy with the bad hand raising, the guy with the good hand calling.
Flop is 4-ace tray, and Hellmuth flops a flush draw.
And a straight draw. Would make a straight with a 5.
Esfandiari checked, and Hellmuth again aggressively betting 7,000.
Now, if the hands were reversed, we know Phil would throw this hand away, but not Antonio. He calls. He's got nothing but king high.
Turns a 4 of clubs. Antonio checks.
And Phil checks. That was his opportunity to pick up the pot right there. Sometimes you got to fire a second bullet.
Rivers a 10 of spades. Both players check, and king high for Antonio takes down the pot.
How big a favorite was I this hand with the straight and flush draw? Straight flush draw, he told me, with king high on the flop. Congratulations, you're 3-1 underdog. Good call.
You're welcome. I mean, thank you.
What in the... See, I've had 2 straight flush draws. He went on with jack 3 offsuit and king high. I'll tell you, I feel pretty confident we both had $2 million in front of us. I'm going to have to bust you. You might get me at this. I mean, all you got to do is keep hitting miracles. All you got to do, if you keep missing straight and flush draws every hand.
You lost with a jack deuce to a king queen. That was a miracle?
Oh, all right, never mind, son. You're right.
Well,
you were a big favorite all the way.
Well, I mean...
Good hand.
Never mind.
King 9 raises to 13,000. Suited jack 3 for Hellmuth, and he calls.
He's tired of getting pushed around.
Check it.
He checks before the flop.
Now he can stop complaining about cards. He flops 2 pair.
He wanted Antonio to bet for him. Antonio didn't bet, but now Antonio's made a pair of kings, and Phil checks again.
Antonio checks.
Wow, Antonio's not going for it.
Rivers an ace of spades. So Phil checks.
Check.
And Antonio checks right back. Hellmuth will take down the pot with his 2 pair.
Antonio must have sensed something.
Ooh, it could have been ugly. Jack, jack,
Oh, he is grinding on him now.
Nice answer.
Oh, you like to bet every flop, right?
I understand. How sweet a flop was that?
Guess I better start betting my hands, huh?
No, I'll keep firing. You can pick me up.
Nah, I have to switch strategy. I'm gonna start re-raising and raising a lot now.
All right. That's when I usually have aces. You know,
I think I'll have aces. I think you might have the jacks.
and then I'll suck out.
I don't think so. Not this time.
Pair of jacks for Esfandiari.
That's what Phil Hellmuth just said. You're going to have a pair of jacks. That's unbelievable.
Queen deuce that Hellmuth folds.
How weird is that? How weird is that? 2 jacks? You just said I was going to get 2 jacks.
I had a queen, but it was a deuce with it.
Phil Hellmuth may be on the brink of losing it, and as we've seen, his emotions can get to him.
Me? Emotional? Of course, yeah. No, I mean, sometimes I'm embarrassed by my conduct. You know, sometimes when I watch myself on television, I'm like, oh, man, Don't do this. Oh, no, Phil. Jeez. What? Like John McEnroe said, we get paid extra for tantrums. God dang! What you're seeing, I'm not trying to sell some house of cards. This is me, and it's sincere, and people can relate to it.
But Phil says he does all that for show, but he can't control it. Which is it, Gabe?
It's both. He can't control it, and he realizes it's a good show. Plus, it does have an effect on his opponents.
It looks like Antonio's putting on the show. Now, look at him mugging in the monitor here for the room.
I think he just discovered that we're on television here.
Suited 8-7 for him here. Blinds up to 2 and 4,000, by the way.
Very interesting. Because he was playing with his face in the monitor, he didn't raise with his 7-8 of clubs, which generally he would definitely have raised, and he gave Phil the chance to raise with ace-6.
After Phil's raise, Antonio called. Flop comes Jack 4-7, middle pair for Esfandiari.
Now Phil has nothing, but he took the lead in the hand by raising before the flop.
And he bets here 17-5.
Now Antonio has got a pair of sevens, that's second pair, and he's got a backdoor flush. But he's let Phil take the lead in the hand.
He'll call.
Antonio's a little lost in the hand.
Oh, big turn card for Hellmuth, a pair of aces. He checks. Antonio checks right back into the river. A 10 of hearts, no help for Antonio.
Now Phil's going to bet his aces here.
Bets 25,000.
Now if Antonio calls, it's because he's lost in the hand and because he let Phil take the lead in the hand and Phil made a pair of aces.
He calls.
Aces is good.
And Hellmuth takes down a nice pot.
That little playing with his face in the Jumbotron up there cost Antonio a big pot. Normally he would have had the lead in the pot and he would have won it on the flop because he flopped a pair of sevens and Phil had nothing.
Stop looking at yourself on TV. We'll return to the gold. Hellmuth with ace-9. He calls. Jack-6 for Esfandiari. Oh, coming in hot. Raises to 17-5.
Yeah, Antonio's going back to that style, which got him the lead in the beginning, raising with anything.
Hellmuth calls. Flop comes 5-4 ace, and again Hellmuth pairs aces.
And Antonio has nothing. Let's see if he fires out.
He indeed fires out. 18-5.
Now, if Phil Hellmuth stays consistent, he'll just call here.
So much, Antonio.
Why so much, Phil? He wants you to throw your hand away.
And Hellmuth does just call.
And in this particular hand, it's going to work out because Antonio has nothing.
On the turn, Esfandiari pairs his jacks.
Well, that's a flush out there now, and Antonio has made a pair. So he tried to take the pot away in the flop. It didn't work. Now he has something. He has a chance of winning the pot with his pair of jacks.
Both players check into the river. 7 of hearts.
They've both made flushes here. Antonio has a 6-high flush. Phil has a 9-high flush. Call.
Antonio bets 24,000. Hellmuth quickly calls and takes down the pot with the higher flush. 3 and 6,000.
And Phil only looks at one of his cards and calls. He feels a king is good enough to just call with. The other card will be the surprise in his crackerjack box.
Suited 10-4 for Esfandiari. After he looked at both of them, he checks. And the flop comes king 6 deuce, top pair for Hellmuth. We still don't know what that other hole card is. Esfandiari bets 8,500. There it is.
Phil just found out it's a queen.
Good enough for him to call.
And as usual, Phil just calls with a big hand.
And now 2 pair for Hellmuth, the queen on the turn. It's a good thing he checked that other card. Antonio checks. Now Hellmuth with a bet of 15,000.
Well, he hopes Antonio has something. Antonio's making like he's going to make a play, and he is.
Raises to 45,000.
He's picked the wrong time to make a play. Phil Hellmuth has top 2 pair.
How much more you got there, Antonio? I'm all in.
And Hellmuth moves all in.
There's the 30.
Yes, Antonio is convinced Phil that he has a hand. Phil wants to end the match right here. If Antonio has kings or kings and sixes or anything, Antonio would have to call and the match would be over. Antonio has nothing. He's trying to convince Phil here that he's laying down a hand. Doesn't want Phil to know that he tried to bluff.
And Hellmuth takes down another sizable pot. Semi-final table where Phil Hellmuth has established a chip advantage of better than 4-1. A pair of 4s for him here. He calls.
Again, deciding not to raise with a pair.
Antonio Esfandiari with King Jack. He raises up to 18,000. Hellmuth calls.
This has worked out perfect for Phil. He likes to have the other guy do the betting.
Flops 3, King 4, a set of 4s for Hellmuth.
Very dangerous here. Look at this. Antonio's flop top pair. Phil's got a set of 4s.
So on that pair of kings, Antonio bets out 17-5.
It's going to be really tough for Antonio not to go broke on this hand.
20 more.
Hellmuth raises to 37-5.
This is the classic Hold'em trap, Matt. You flop top pair with a good kicker. Your opponent flops a set. Almost impossible to get away from. There's no flush drawer out there. There's no way Antonio's going to get away from this hand.
He raises, and quickly Hellmuth moves all in.
All right, I call.
Antonio calls. He's not going to like what he sees when they flip the cards. Only 2 miracle cards can save Antonio Esfandiari.
Nice hand.
Antonio sees the cards and sighs. He knows what he's up against. This would be the biggest miracle he's pulled off the whole tournament.
He's pulled off some incredible comebacks in this tournament. Does he have enough magic left to escape this jam? No magic on the turn. Phil Hellmuth has defeated Antonio Esfandiari.
You're the one I was most afraid of. I mean, Hook and I had a great battle. You're the one I was most afraid of.
Phil is doing his thing again. He's saying, I had a great battle with Huck, but you were the guy I was most afraid of as he goes into the finals.
Phil Hellmuth moving on. And Lindsey Czarniak is with him now.
Phil, a big congratulations. You know,
Thank you.
so many times at the table, it seems like you are the one in control. You're able to rattle your opponents. It looked for a second, though, that you were the one getting rattled.
Antonio had me totally rattled, and Antonio played me just perfect. He raised me. I was reeling back, and if I went to hit a hand, he would have beat me because I was starting to lose it a little bit, just a little bit. And I said, finally, I counted my chips. I said, look, you still have 210,000. Don't panic yet. But I was getting a little worried there. I mean,
Who is the best player in the tournament?
no comment on that. I mean, you know, if I can win this thing, then people will think that I'm pretty good, you know, and that's the goal. I just want to try to play and survive. And, you know, I mean, I have one more match to go.
Congratulations. Good luck.
They doubted him before the tournament, but Phil Hellmuth is our first finalist. We'll find out who he plays next.